Sir, something just happened at the company. One of our staff members got into an accident. We're waiting for the ambulance. We've already called the floor manager. The news came from one of the employees. I'll go myself, the CEO said. Amanda, one of the employees, gasped in shock. She had never seen the CEO personally handle matters like this. Usually it was only the floor manager who would take care of incidents like these. But now the CEO was stepping in. Sir, the nurse at the blood bank said gravely, we don't have any supply of the blood type you're requesting. You'll need to find a donor. Let's ask the employees, said the CEO. I'll talk to them, the floor manager responded. What? Why us? Why should we give our blood just because of that woman? One of the office staff said, annoyed. It wasn't our fault. That janitor was always clumsy anyway, and she's just a janitor. We can find someone else better if she dies. Just make sure the next one isn't as dumb as she was. Hannah the janitor had a rare blood type. No one else in the company matched. Then I'll be the donor, the CEO declared. Despite her job title, Hannah was often looked down on by many employees in the company. People assumed she was less than them because she had only finished high school and hadn't gone to college. Because of this, it was hard for her to find a stable, well-paying job. Are you still not done? You've been there forever, snapped an employee. When you're done with that, go clean my desk. It's a mess. The truth was, Hannah wasn't just hired to clean. She ended up doing almost everything, making coffee, running errands, doing tasks outside her job description. It was unfair, but she endured it all with a kind heart. And because of that kindness, most of the staff took advantage of her. Hey Hannah, get me some coffee after you finish wiping down that table, barked another employee. Make it fast, I need it now. She smiled sweetly and nodded. She had grown used to the constant commands. Every day was the same, orders from one person after another. But she told herself to get used to it. If she lost this job, she wouldn't have anywhere else to go. Compared to other jobs she had worked before, this company at least paid better and provided benefits. As she rushed through her tasks, she didn't notice that her mop had left a wet spot on the floor. She was on a ladder, trying to reach the top of a glass wall. As she stepped down, her foot landed right where the floor was slippery. She fell, hard, smacking her head on the marble tiles below. Everything went black. Blood pooled around her. No one noticed at first. A few moments later, one of the female employees screamed, "Oh my God, it's Hannah!" The floor erupted in panic. Some rushed toward her. Only one called for an ambulance. Others were too busy taking videos and posting about it online. By a twist of fate, the CEO, Mr. Ethan Alacon, saw one of the posts. His brow furrowed deeply as he stared at the screen. Moments later, his phone rang. Sir, something happened. One of our janitorial staff had an accident. The ambulance is on the way. The floor manager has been informed. I'll go there myself, Mr. Alarcon said without hesitation. Amanda, who was standing nearby, gasped again. It was unheard of for the CEO to get involved in situations like this. Mr. Alarcon rushed into his car. His driver was already waiting. To the company, he ordered. Not only did he face the media, but he also followed the ambulance straight to the hospital where Hannah had been taken. Sir, the blood bank doesn't have the blood type we need, the front desk nurse informed him. You'll need to find a donor as soon as possible. The patient is suffering severe blood loss. Mr. Alacon turned to the manager beside him. Ask our employees. Maybe someone's a match. The manager relayed the CEO's suggestion. Why should we? One of the employees protested. She brought this on herself. She wasn't careful. And anyway, she's just a janitor. The same employee who had often ordered Hannah around was now the one most loudly objecting to donating blood. Why are we being dragged into this? She's not even important, another chimed in. This is coming from the CEO, the manager reminded them sternly. If you want to keep your job, you better cooperate. We don't have a choice. Still, no one volunteered. The manager was forced to ask other departments. But again, no match was found. Hannah's blood type was too rare. When the manager returned to the CEO to report the news, Mr. Alarcon's shoulders visibly slumped. He didn't know why, but visiting Hannah's hospital bed made him feel something unexpected. He felt concern. Every time he saw the back of her neck, he was reminded of the same birthmark his missing daughter once had. His chest tightened. Then I'll be the donor, he finally said. Right away, sir. The nurse nodded. He fixed his coat and got ready to leave the room when the manager spoke. Sir, I apologize for the behavior of one of my staff. I'll make sure it doesn't happen again. Mr. Alarcon turned and gave him a cold stare. I'm helping because I can, and because she needs it. But whatever happened to her is not her fault. It was an accident. Don't blame her. She's a victim. The manager stood frozen, unable to reply. I have a lot of meetings today. Let's move, the CEO said, and walked out. Yes, sir, the manager replied quickly, following behind. Before heading to the clinic for his blood donation, Mr. Alarcon stopped by Hannah's room once more. He didn't stay long. It didn't take much time for the nurses to collect his blood, but before he left, he made a call. I want you to send that DNA sample we collected to my contact for testing, he instructed. He was confused by everything he was feeling. For years he had searched for his daughter. He was desperate to find her. And maybe, just maybe, this was the lead he had been waiting for. 2 months passed before Hannah finally woke up. She had no one else to expect at her bedside. She was an orphan after all. But the moment her eyes fluttered open, she was startled to feel someone wrapping her in a warm embrace. It was Mr. Alarcon. She froze. Who wouldn't be shocked? The CEO of the company she worked for, her employer, was hugging her as if they were family. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice trembling. I'm sorry for everything I lacked. Hannah stared at him, confused. Then she noticed something even more startling. Mr. Alarcon was crying. What do you mean? She asked, her voice hoarse and unsure. He took a moment to compose himself, wiped his eyes, and reached for a few papers on the bedside table. Smiling gently, he handed them to her. She hesitated, but eventually took the papers and read them. Her hands trembled. It was a DNA test result. Positive. A match. It's from both of us, Mr. Alarcon said with a bitter smile. Since the day you disappeared, I never stopped searching for you. I blamed myself. I cursed the world. There were times I became desperate, just trying to find you, and now, here you are. He broke down into tears. Hannah sat there stunned. She didn't know what to say. Her throat tightened, and tears began rolling down her cheeks. She had longed for this, for someone to hold her, for someone to come back for her. She had once dreamed of having a parent, of having a home to return to, but over time, she had given up on that dream, thinking it was impossible. Now, here it was, suddenly real. Mr. Alarcon hugged her again. She closed her eyes as the tears flowed harder. She gripped his coat tightly, unwilling to let go. Please, don't leave me again, she sobbed. I can't take it anymore. Mr. Alarcon could only respond by repeating, I'm sorry, through his own tears. 1 year later. A year had passed, and no one had seen Hannah since. Many in the office wondered what happened to her. With no one left to boss around, some of her former co-workers actually missed having someone to push around. That new girl who replaced Hannah is such a brat, won't even take orders, one of them complained. Yeah, it's been a year. Maybe she didn't make it, another replied casually. Some shrugged. Then the floor manager arrived, his face pale. Mr. Alarcon is stepping down. He wants all staff called to the lobby immediately, he announced. Everyone was stunned. The CEO? Stepping down? Whispers filled the air. Employees rushed to the lobby, curious and anxious. The media were already waiting at the company's grand lobby. It wasn't every day that the CEO of one of America's most prestigious companies resigned. Everyone knew that Mr. Alarcon had no children, and his wife had passed away years ago. So this announcement came as a complete surprise. A black luxury vehicle pulled up outside. The driver stepped out and opened the door for Mr. Alarcon. He stepped out with a wide smile, then turned to assist someone still inside the car. A woman in formal business attire stepped out. The cameras immediately began flashing. Employees stared in disbelief. "Wait, is that Hannah?" one gasped. They couldn't move. Mr. Alarcon and Hannah walked to the center of the lobby, but this wasn't the same Hannah they used to know. Gone was the timid, exhausted janitor. The woman beside Mr. Alarcon now stood with confidence, poise, and grace. "I just want to make an announcement," Mr. Alarcon began, "not only about my resignation, but about my daughter." He placed a hand proudly on Hannah's shoulder. "This is my daughter, Hannah Alarcon." The employees gasped, eyes widened, mouths hung open, shock and panic spread across the lobby. The janitor they once insulted and ignored was now the heiress to the Alarcon empire. "I'm stepping down as CEO," Mr. Alarcon continued, "and the one who will take my place is my daughter. I trust her completely. I've seen her strength. She is ready to lead." He smiled warmly. "Maybe it's because you're ugly that no one wants to adopt you. You're all skin and bones, like a skeleton from the science room." A boy shouted. The children around laughed cruelly. Hannah stayed silent. Every insult, every time they mocked her, she kept it all inside. It hurt, but she didn't say a word. Maybe they were right. She had always been sickly and skinny, no matter how much she ate or what vitamins the orphanage gave her. Nothing seemed to work. "Bones, Bones, don't play with us. You might snap in half," the kids yelled when she tried to join their games. So instead of playing, she sat and watched from the sidelines, hoping one day someone might want her. One afternoon, a married couple arrived at the orphanage with their son. Hannah overheard that the couple already had 3 boys, and now wanted to adopt a girl. They wanted to experience raising a daughter. Her heart jumped with hope. Maybe this time, someone would choose her. She rushed toward the gate to make sure she'd be seen. She wanted to be noticed. She dreamed of having a family, siblings, a dinner table to sit at with people who loved her. When she saw the 3 boys with the couple, her heart beat faster. If she was picked, she'd instantly have 3 big brothers. The boys looked strict, but that didn't matter. She still wanted to be adopted. "Hi, I'm Sheila. I'm good at singing. I finished my class at the top, and I'm really well behaved," said the fair, chubby girl next to her. Everyone knew Sheila would probably be chosen. She was cute, smart, cheerful, and most of all, looked healthy. Hannah felt discouraged. She looked at the 3 boys. She knew now that she wouldn't become their sister. Her dreams of having a family with them vanished in an instant. The couple asked to speak with the head nun privately. As they went inside the chapel, Hannah noticed the couple glancing often at Sheila, who was trying her best to be cute each time they looked. Hannah sighed deeply. "Hey, kid!" a voice called out. She turned. It was one of the boys. She instinctively took a step back. The boy stepped closer and sniffed her. "You're the only one here who smells nice. Everyone else smells gross," he said. Her eyes widened. "Really?" It was the first compliment she had ever received in her life. She had always been mocked, but never praised. Maybe it was because she wasn't active like the other kids. She took 2 baths a day and made it a habit to stay clean. "Yeah, out of everyone here, you're the only one who's not sloppy," the boy continued. "I hate messy kids. I hope Mom and Dad pick you." He shrugged his shoulders and turned to walk away. I want that too, Hannah said happily. I want you to be my brother. I don't want you to be my sister, he said suddenly. Hannah was stunned. Before she could speak, he walked away. She scratched her head, confused. He said he wanted his parents to adopt her, but didn't want her as a sister. Later, when the couple emerged with the nun, they went straight to Sheila. Hannah lowered her head. It was obvious now. Sheila had been chosen. You're such a smart and adorable little girl, the woman said. Thank you, Sheila replied, turning up the charm even more. Hannah looked at the three boys again. The one who had spoken to her earlier was still watching her. When she caught his gaze, he looked away quickly. She didn't understand him. In the end, it was Sheila the Herrera family adopted. No one was surprised. Sheila was cute and appealing, the type people wanted to take home. As the family was leaving, the same boy who had complimented her earlier came up to her again. You weren't the one they picked, he said plainly. Hannah nodded and lowered her head. I just want to know your name, he added. She looked up, confused. What's your name? He repeated. After a moment, she answered. Hannah. I'm Ryan Herrera. He held out his hand. She shook it nervously. I don't want you as my sister, because I want to marry you when we grow up, he said. Her jaw dropped. He called over the other boys. Hey, all of you, if I ever find out you bullied Hannah, you'll have to answer to me, he declared. Hannah saw the fear flash across the other kids' faces. From that day on, no one dared say anything cruel to her again. That year became one of the most peaceful in her life. She wished she could see Ryan again to thank him. One day, she found a teddy bear with a note attached. For Hannah. It was the first gift she had ever received. That's from Ryan, one of the nuns said with a smile. His dad dropped it off just for you. Ryan asked him to deliver it. Please tell him I loved it. Tell him thank you, Hannah said, grinning. She continued to receive gifts, chocolates, snacks, small treats, each month from Ryan. With every gift came a letter. He told her stories from his life. It was as if she were reading his diary. She looked forward to each delivery. But when she turned 17, they stopped. Still, she hoped. Maybe he'd send a letter, even just one. 3 months passed, then one day, she overheard the nuns talking. The Herrera family moved to California, one said. That's why they haven't visited. All their kids are with them. Even Sheila. Hannah felt like the world had collapsed around her. Ryan left and didn't even say goodbye. For the first time in her life, she cried. She had been through so much, but losing Ryan broke her. When she turned 18, she was old enough to leave the orphanage and live on her own. She tried her luck in the outside world. She worked job after job, hopping from place to place. Eventually, she landed at Alarcon Enterprises. It was the first time she earned a decent wage and had real benefits. So she worked hard. She tried to forget about Ryan, but no matter how busy she kept herself, she couldn't. He was still there, lingering in her heart. She's here! 5 kids came running toward Hannah as she arrived at the church steps. She handed over a bag of bread rolls to them. Thank you, one of the kids mumbled with a mouthful of food. Hannah smiled warmly. Eat slowly, okay? Don't choke. The kids laughed. These 5 siblings sold flowers near the church every day. Hannah related to them. She understood what it felt like to have no parents. That's why she made it a habit to bring them food whenever she could. We haven't eaten all day. One of the younger ones sniffled. Good thing you came, sis. She gave a small, sad smile. She had tried many times to convince them to go to the same orphanage she came from, but they refused. They preferred staying outside the church, where they could earn money, unlike in the orphanage where they had nothing. Hannah sighed as she looked up at the towering building in front of her. Alacon Enterprises, the tallest structure in the entire city. The company was constantly in the news. Almost every product featured on TV seemed to come from them. It was a corporation on par with the biggest companies in the world, and she was proud to work there. Despite how poorly most of her co-workers treated her, she was still grateful for the job. She remembered applying there months ago. "You're just applying as a janitor. What took you so long?" snapped the woman at the front desk. "Sorry," Hannah replied. "There was traffic. I left early so I wouldn't be late, but—" "Excuses!" The woman cut her off with a glare. She was scolded the moment she stepped foot in the company. After a long wait to be interviewed, she was finally told, "Come back tomorrow. The manager isn't in today." She was crushed. The money she'd saved up just for this application was nearly gone. She had even taken time off from her previous job to prepare her requirements, and lost that job because of too many absences. She returned the next day, only to be told again, "Come back tomorrow. The manager's still busy, and make sure you're early." This happened several more times. By her fifth visit, the manager was finally available. On her first day, she was assigned to clean 5 floors. There were only 3 janitors, and one of them had called in sick, so she was left to cover multiple floors by herself. "Hey newbie, take this to the first floor. Put it on the secretary's desk." "Hey newbie, photocopy this." "Hey newbie, get me some coffee." "Why are you so slow? Are you a slug?" That was her routine for the following months. The moment the manager asked her to make coffee one day, everyone else started piling on tasks. Not one, but many employees treated her as their personal assistant. It was exhausting, but she endured it. The pay was good. She had plans to go back to school, maybe study something business-related. That goal helped her tolerate her co-workers' cruelty. She was always exhausted when she got home. Sometimes she didn't even eat dinner, too tired to move. "Why does this coffee have sugar? What were you thinking? I'm on a diet," one of the employees shrieked in the morning. "I told you no sugar. Maybe you got it wrong." "I'll have to throw this away. What a waste. Should I pour it on your dumb face instead?" "I'll replace it right away. I'm really sorry," Hannah said, bowing her head. "You better. Don't be such an idiot. You should double-check things. You ruined my morning." The woman flipped her hair dramatically as her boyfriend arrived. "This baby of mine is high blood pressure already, early in the morning," he said, kissing her cheek. "Let's eat out later so you don't get stressed by our dumb janitor." "It's her fault, babe. She ruined my figure." Then she turned back to Hannah. "Admit it. You're just jealous of how pretty and sexy I am. You're trying to ruin my diet so I gain weight again." Hannah shook her head quickly. "That's not true." The guy glared at her. "Really? You're a mess. You're just bitter." She blinked rapidly, overwhelmed. All this over coffee? She ended up drinking it herself. It was from Starbucks. It was the first time she had coffee from there. Usually she just made instant 3-in-1 at home. She sighed. The price alone made her feel guilty, especially since she was saving up every penny. The insults never ended. A simple "thank you" would have been enough, but instead, all she got was scolding and humiliation. Still, she held on. For the paycheck, for the benefits. She had been through worse at the orphanage. This was nothing new. "Hey, I've been calling you. Are you deaf?" the manager barked. "Coming!" Hannah shouted back, quickly abandoning her coffee to report to the manager, who was already in a bad mood again. Endless stress surrounded the company. She figured maybe everyone was just under pressure. Maybe that's why they snapped so easily. She understood. They were human too. "Faster! Clean over here!" the manager ordered, smacking her with a rolled-up carton. "Ow! Yes, right away!" She rushed to obey. "Don't you have a budget for a PA? Why are you dragging your janitor all the way out here to do this job?" snapped the talent manager, June, to the floor manager, Tabitha. June glanced over at Hannah, who was sitting outside the set, waiting quietly. Tabitha had suddenly brought her along to a photo shoot to help. Hannah wasn't even sure if it was part of her job. She was supposed to be at the company headquarters. "It saves money, June," Tabitha replied. "Why pay someone when we've got our clueless little janitor back at the office? She already does a PA's job. Besides, this shoot's for one of our partner brands. She's still technically working for the company. We'll just pocket the budget we'd have spent hiring someone else. That's $2,000 saved." June looked stressed. "If I get dragged into this, you're dead meat." Tabitha just grinned and walked back to Hannah. "Get moving. Listen carefully to the talent manager. If you screw this up, I'll deduct a whole month's salary. Got it?" she said, pointing at Hannah. Hannah nodded and headed inside. The office was hectic, but the photo shoot set was even worse. She barely had time to eat. There was always something to carry, adjust, or fetch. The shoot was happening on the hotel rooftop, but all the outfits were in the lobby. That meant Hannah had to go up and down constantly. She had already gone up and down 5 times and was breathless. By the 5th trip up, everyone else was eating. "You should eat too. You look pale," said one of the staff, handing her a plate of food. "Thank you," Hannah replied with a smile, even though she was exhausted. Another staffer gave her a water bottle. She had expected the people here to be just as mean as those back at the office. She was pleasantly surprised. They were kind. "Retouch after this," the stylist announced. Everyone hurried to finish their food. Some had barely taken 3 bites when they jumped up again to prep the next shoot. Hannah followed suit. "You, PA," said one of the models, pointing at her. The model was tall, glamorous, and unfamiliar. "Get the list of items I need from my manager," she said, raising an eyebrow. Without another word, she turned her back to Hannah. Hannah nodded and headed toward the model's manager, who handed her a list and an address. The model wanted lasagna, but it wasn't just any lasagna. It was made to order from a very specific restaurant miles away. "You need to be back in an hour," the manager said. "She throws fits if her lasagna isn't served after the last shoot." Hannah nodded nervously. She wasn't sure she could make it in time. She rushed out and took the fastest transportation available. The lasagna had very particular instructions. No touching the container with bare hands, gloves required, and the recipe was so specific it looked like it had been written by a chef. The man at the counter raised an eyebrow as he prepared the order. "Another one from Miss Perfectionist," he muttered. Apparently, the model was a regular at the restaurant, and the staff had given her that nickname for her absurd demands. Hannah couldn't help but smile a little. At least they were used to her. "Thank you," she said, as she received the lasagna. She immediately caught a cab back. Thankfully, traffic was light. "Wow, that was fast," said the model's manager when she returned. Hannah smiled, panting. "Yeah, luckily there wasn't much traffic." "Well, thanks." She froze. Someone had thanked her. Just a simple, "thanks," but it made her smile even more. She didn't know why, maybe because she was so starved for kindness. Even small things like that felt big. After the shoot, she helped clean up. Finally, she was allowed to go home. She was exhausted, but still smiling. That day's work had been tiring, yes, but it had also been rewarding. She realized something. Money couldn't compare to kindness. She didn't need much to be happy. She was just someone with a soft heart, craving attention and affection. And when she thought of those things, she thought of Ryan again. Ryan had been the first to give her that, attention. Even now, she couldn't get him out of her head. Before going to bed, she reread the letters he had sent her. She kept every one of them. They were her only connection to the first person who made her feel seen. "Ryan, clean that up. Fix it," barked one of the office staff. Hannah was crouched beneath a desk, wiping spilled coffee from the floor. coffee that one of the employees had knocked over. The cramped space made it hard for her to move, and she had already bumped her head several times against the underside of the desk. "It's clean now," she said, finishing her wiping. "Clean? That?" The woman pointed to a tiny, unreachable corner. "You missed that part. Are you just going to let it dry on its own? You're seriously disgusting. You really have no manners. That's going to attract ants." "What, you want me to get bitten now too?" the woman shouted, forcing Hannah to fetch the mop again and re-wipe the area, even though she had already cleaned it multiple times. "What's taking so long? I've already eaten lunch and you're still down there," the employee snapped. That was when Hannah realized it was already lunchtime. Because of the woman's constant nitpicking, she had missed her break. She rushed through her task, hoping to grab a few minutes to eat before her break ended. She hurried toward the elevator, but just as she reached it, she ran into someone she never expected to see, Mr. Ethan Alarcon. "This elevator is for executives and guests. Why are you waiting here?" the bodyguard asked. "Let her be, Isidro," Mr. Alarcon interjected. "We can share the elevator, especially with someone in a hurry." The CEO smiled at Hannah. She froze. The CEO himself, smiling at her. She had always imagined that someone at his level would be just as cold and dismissive as the other employees. But now she saw something different. He was kind. "Thank you," she said softly. As the elevator doors opened, he gestured for her to enter first. She stepped inside, uneasy about sharing the small space with someone so high up in the company. This was the CEO, the owner of it all. "What floor?" Mr. Alarcon asked. "Ground floor," she replied quickly, barely able to meet his eyes. "Ground floor, Isidro," he told the driver. "We're headed to the parking lot anyway, so it works out." Again he smiled. She couldn't help but smile back. She didn't know why, but his smile felt comforting, like it reached into a corner of her heart she didn't know was still empty. Maybe it was because she was so used to being treated poorly. Kindness, even the smallest bit, touched her deeply. "Thank you again," she said as she exited the elevator, giving a slight bow to show her sincerity. Mr. Alarcon nodded warmly, then left with his entourage. She hurried to the small diner behind the building. She couldn't afford the food sold near the front entrance. It was all too expensive. The back alley diner was where she got her daily meals, cheap rice, simple stews, and whatever else they had. "You know, I saw the CEO earlier," someone whispered inside one of the cubicles. "He doesn't even look 50, still handsome for his age." "I know, right? If I looked like a model or a celebrity, I'd totally seduce Mr. Alarcon," another voice replied. "Do you know how loaded he is? All his bank accounts, the inheritance, the company. I'd get pregnant immediately, give him an heir." "He doesn't have kids, right?" a third chimed in. "Nope, wife's been gone for years. That's why it's the perfect setup." "Well, even if we're not models, maybe he'll fall for one of us. We just need a glow-up." "Right, I'm buying top-tier makeup tomorrow. I'll glam up and see if he notices me." "Please, he'll notice me first. I'm getting revealing clothes to wear when he's around." Hannah could only shake her head as she mopped the floor nearby, overhearing the ridiculous conversation between the office women. She moved to a different part of the floor, continuing her work. Her day was far from over. She only got to rest when it was finally time to clock out. As she wiped the last panel of glass, she thought about Mr. Alarcon again. She silently prayed that he wouldn't fall for women like those. Women only after his money. He deserved someone who would love him genuinely. The rest of her shift passed like any other. Endless errands, endless orders. But the idea of a kind, fair CEO gave her a little peace. When the day ended, she took the bus home, carrying the whole roasted chicken she had bought from a street vendor earlier. It was payday tomorrow, just in time. She didn't plan on eating the chicken alone. Tomorrow was payday, so everything lined up perfectly. People could finally spend what little they had saved. "Oops, let's take a quick break," came a cheerful voice from a YouTube video playing in the background. Hannah clicked off the video just as she arrived at her bus stop. She headed straight for a local bakery she knew made custom cakes. She picked out a pink one, the kind she knew the birthday girl would love. Once home, she quickly tidied up her small house. She'd also bought a few balloons and simple decorations from the same store where she got the cake. Though she was tired from work, she ignored the exhaustion to get everything ready in time. By 7 p.m., she could already hear the voices of children approaching. She turned off the lights and hid behind the door. As soon as the kids knocked, she flipped on the lights and sang out loud, startling them all. The kids gasped. It was the youngest sibling's birthday. Lenny, the smallest of the group she often fed outside the church. They had all met after an incident where one of them had chased down a thief who had stolen her wallet. That act of bravery had formed a bond between them. Since then, she had become like a big sister to all of them. "Miss Hannah, I'm gonna cry," whispered Annie, the second youngest. "This is the first time I'm gonna eat real birthday cake." Tears welled up in Dino's eyes. "Me too. I'm gonna eat cake." "Ice cream too," shouted Ice as he jumped with excitement. Lenny, who was still being carried by Tina, the eldest, reached for the cake, wanting to dig in right away. "Wait, we need to blow out the candles first," Hannah said, laughing. They sang "Happy Birthday" in a chorus of out-of-tune but joyful voices. They clapped, they cheered, and then they dug into the cake and roasted chicken she'd brought. It wasn't a lot of food, but it was more than enough to bring joy. "Thank you, Miss Hannah," the 4 older kids shouted in unison. Lenny's babbling wasn't clear, but it made them all laugh. After the little celebration, the children fell asleep at her house. Tina stayed behind to help clean up. Hannah had told her multiple times to rest and leave the mess to her, but Tina insisted. She wanted to help. While they washed dishes, Tina suddenly asked, "Miss Hannah, what if you were actually the child of someone rich, and you just didn't know it?" Hannah chuckled. "That only happens in TV dramas, not in real life." "But what if it did?" She paused, thinking. "Well, I guess. I'd say thank you. Not because they're rich, but because I finally found my real family. I wouldn't even ask why they left me. I'd just hug them and be grateful that they're still alive, that I got the chance to meet them." She looked up at the ceiling, letting her mind wander. It was a beautiful thought, imagining that her parents were out there somewhere, alive and well. Maybe she'd get to hug them someday. Maybe she'd finally feel like she belonged. "If I were rich," she added, "I'd make sure you and your siblings got to go to school, so you wouldn't have to keep selling flowers outside the church." She meant it. While orphanages provided basic education, the care wasn't always guaranteed. Tina had told her before that she preferred living on the streets because it gave them a way to earn, even if it wasn't much. "I'm sorry, Miss Hannah," Tina said quietly. "I want to go, but I'm not sure yet. We're comfortable living here. Our mum left us this house and lot, so for now, we're okay." Tina gave a pained smile. "I don't even know which of us will make it through college, but as the eldest, I'll try my best to send my siblings to school." Hannah's heart ached at her words. Tina's situation was even harder than hers. 4 younger siblings, all still small. Yet Tina bore it all with strength. Hannah knew she couldn't complain about her own life. Others had it worse. She silently vowed to help Tina however she could. The girl had become like family. "You're not going to sleep yet?" Hannah asked as they finished cleaning. "I will soon, Miss Hannah. Go ahead, I'll follow." As Hannah started to head upstairs, she noticed Tina quietly stepping outside to the porch. She sat alone. Hannah turned back, walked over, and sat beside her. Tina quickly wiped her face, trying to hide the tears, but Hannah had already seen them. "It's okay to cry," Hannah said softly. "Are you okay? I'll listen. Cry it out. It helps." She placed a comforting hand on Tina's shoulder, and finally, Tina let the tears fall. Hannah didn't press her for answers. She didn't need to. She already knew the burden Tina carried every single day. Tina was too young to bear that much weight on her own. But sometimes, life didn't care about age. Sometimes it just expected you to survive. "There's no janitor scheduled for the top floor today, so you're going up there to clean. Hurry and get to it," Tabitha, the floor manager, instructed, typing away at her computer while giving orders. Hannah just nodded. She wanted to finish mopping the floor quickly to avoid getting yelled at again. Tabitha's mood swung like a pendulum, and today she was clearly irritable. "What's taking so long? Move faster!" Tabitha snapped again, peeking to make sure Hannah was still working. Hannah picked up her pace. She finished her task, gathered her cleaning supplies, and headed for the elevator to reach the top floor. When the elevator dinged open, her eyes widened. It looked like she had entered a 5-star hotel. Everything was different. The walls, the lighting, the floors. It was all pristine and luxurious. Glass panels lined the space. She couldn't help but gape. It was her first time up here. Normally, a different janitor was assigned to this area. But that janitor had called in sick, so now she was filling in. She reminded herself she was here to work, not admire the scenery. She pulled her cleaning trolley gently across the glossy black ceramic floor, terrified of scratching it. "Oh, so Asuncion's out today." She jumped. She turned toward the voice and found Mr. Alarcon himself standing there. "Good morning, sir," she said quickly. "I was sent here because the regular janitor's out." Mr. Alarcon nodded. "That's fine, I understand." A second later, he seemed to recognize her. "Oh, you're the one I rode the elevator with, right?" He pointed at her, smiling. She froze. She hadn't expected him to remember. Awkwardly, she nodded. "Yes, sir, that was me." "I guess I'm not that old yet," he chuckled. Hannah laughed politely and began cleaning. Mr. Alarcon returned to his office and got to work. After a while, she knocked on the glass wall of his office door. She needed to clean inside, too. He waved her in. "Don't you have better opportunities than this, miss? Why are you working such a job?" he asked as she moved about the room. She smiled at him and responded calmly. "Sir, I only finished high school." "Opportunities for someone like me are limited." He looked surprised. "You didn't go to college?" She shook her head. "The orphanage I grew up in couldn't afford to send us past high school. That's all they could offer." Shock registered in his face. "You grew up in an orphanage?" She nodded, the corner of her mouth tugging into a soft, sad smile. "Yes, sir. I was left at the church door as a baby. The nuns said they found me wrapped in a blanket, alone. No one ever came back for me." The sadness in Mr. Alarcon's expression deepened. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't know." She shook her head again. "It's all right. That was a long time ago. I'm okay now. Maybe my parents had a reason. At least they left me somewhere safe. I'm grateful for that." He was speechless. Mr. Alarcon stared at her, stunned by her outlook. In the face of everything she'd endured, she remained kind, hopeful. He smiled. "Do you still want to go to college?" he asked. Her eyes lit up. She nodded eagerly. "Yes, sir. Actually, I've been saving up for it. I want to finish my studies and get a good job, maybe something in business." She didn't even realize she had shared her dream out loud. Normally, she kept it to herself, afraid people would call her delusional, but for some reason, she felt safe talking to Mr. Alarcon. He nodded, impressed. "That's a good mindset to have. Don't give up. You're young. You've got time and energy. Even if it's slow, just keep going. This isn't the end of your story," he said, Losers are the ones who quit, but if you keep moving, even little by little, you'll get where you're going. Life's not a race. She nodded, smiling. His words lifted her. She understood why he had become so successful. He saw value in people and encouraged them to grow. Talking to him felt easy, comfortable, and when she was told that she'd be assigned again to the top floor, she was glad. At least there she could breathe a little. At least there she wasn't just someone to boss around. "You look like you're in a great mood this morning. Been smiling since you got here," Mr. Alarcon noted with a warm grin as Hannah entered his office. "Yes, sir," she replied, nodding. She really was in a good mood. That morning she had counted her savings and realized it might be enough to cover a second semester in community college. It wouldn't be enough to graduate yet, but it was progress. "That's great to hear," Mr. Alarcon said. "By the way, our company is planning to start a scholarship program next year." Hannah paused. "I've been thinking about it since I heard your story," he continued. "I realized I could open doors for people like you. Young folks who want to study but don't have the means." Her eyes widened. "Really, sir?" she asked, stunned. He nodded. "Employees who qualify can work in the mornings and attend night school. It'll be exclusive to our staff." Her eyes filled with tears. "Thank you so much." He shook his head. "Don't thank me. Thank yourself. If you hadn't opened up to me, I never would have thought of it." She couldn't stop smiling. By noon, it was break time. Most employees had gone to eat, but Mr. Alarcon was still hard at work. After eating, Hannah returned with a tray of food. "Sir, please take a break and eat," she said, placing it gently in front of him. He looked up in surprise. "You didn't have to do this." She smiled. "You can't skip meals. You've got a whole company relying on you. Plus, I'm relying on you too. You're still the one signing my paychecks." He chuckled. "You're a funny one." She laughed too. The atmosphere between them was light, casual. She was growing comfortable around him. Since the previous janitor for the executive office hadn't returned, Hannah was still filling in on the top floor. "What's this?" Mr. Alarcon asked, lifting his spoon to the sizzling dish. "Pork sisig," she said proudly. "It's delicious. That's what I always order from the cafeteria." "You buy lunch from the staff canteen?" "Yes, sir. They cook clean and tasty food." He nodded. "All right then. Buy me this every day from now on." Her eyes widened. He was serious. She just shook her head and smiled. Meanwhile, Mr. Alarcon found himself genuinely enjoying her presence. Sometimes he imagined she was his daughter, someone he could talk to without formality. Hannah was cheerful, despite everything life had thrown at her. Every time she was near, his stress and exhaustion seemed to lift. He was even considering keeping her permanently assigned to the top floor. Sometimes, he wondered, if his daughter hadn't been lost, would she be about Hannah's age now? Where was his daughter? Was she eating well? Was she safe? Or had she suffered just as much as Hannah had? These questions lingered every time he looked at Hannah. After finishing his meal, he leaned back, satisfied. He hadn't enjoyed food this much in a long time. He'd lost his appetite over the years, but it had started to return, thanks to her. "I'll go wash these," Hannah said, gathering the tray. "Thank you," he replied, and turned back to his work. But when he glanced at her, he froze. The back of her neck was exposed. Her hair had moved just enough to reveal a distinct birthmark, a mark identical to the one his daughter had. Memories rushed in. He stared, stunned. He reached for the drawer beneath his desk and quickly took a calming pill. His hands were trembling. He needed to control his breathing. He couldn't afford to panic right now. There was still work to do. "How did you get that mark on your neck?" he asked suddenly. Hannah turned to him, noticing how pale he looked. "Are you okay, sir?" He waved off her concern. "I'm fine. Just curious. She smiled faintly. The nuns at the orphanage said I was born with it. They said it looked weird, so I always kept it hidden under my hair. Eventually, people stopped noticing it and stopped teasing me. She chuckled at the memory, but Mr. Alarcon wasn't laughing. He was staring at her in disbelief. "Are you sure you're okay?" she asked again. He nodded slowly. Yes, I'm fine. Just need a moment. I'll head to the restroom." As soon as he left, Hannah returned to cleaning. After finishing her duties on the top floor, Hannah received a call from Tabitha, her floor manager, asking her to come downstairs as soon as she was done. Hannah sighed deeply before heading down. "You haven't been visiting us ever since you started working up there on the top floor?" Tabitha sneered as Hannah arrived. "You know we need help down here too. We have no one to run our errands." "Sorry, ma'am. I just finished my tasks up there when you called," Hannah explained politely. "Oh, please, don't pretend like you're busy. You're just lazy," Tabitha snapped. "Don't forget, I'm still your manager. I can fire you any time I want. You're being paid well here, so act like it." Tabitha jabbed her finger at Hannah's forehead, making her flinch. "Hey, janitor, clean my desk after you're done with Tabitha," another employee chimed in. "Buy me some coffee from downstairs after that. Don't take your sweet time," said another. Hannah was immediately swamped with orders. Her first steps back on this floor were met with a wave of commands. She had no choice but to comply with everything Tabitha told her. But after what Mr. Alarcon had said about the scholarship, she had more reason than ever to stay strong. This job might be the gateway to a better life. She cleaned every cubicle on the floor and skipped her own lunch break just to get everything done. She didn't even notice her hunger until she began to feel dizzy. She quickly headed downstairs to eat something, but, "Hey, janitor, there's still dust on this table," one woman shouted. "And you didn't put water in my flower vase," another scolded. "Do you want to kill the flowers my boyfriend gave me? You know how expensive they were." "Go make me a coffee." "Where's my coffee order, huh?" Hannah didn't even know which demand to handle first. It was only morning, and already her name was being screamed in every direction. Nothing had changed, especially not with Tabitha, who allowed this behavior from the rest of the staff, since she acted the same way herself. One morning, after quickly finishing her bathroom cleaning duty on that floor, Hannah was about to exit when hot coffee suddenly splashed all over her back. She stumbled back, shocked by the heat. The scalding liquid burned her skin, and she winced in pain. "There, that's what you get for messing up my coffee," the woman who threw it barked. "I told you no sugar, didn't I? Are you that stupid, or were you trying to sabotage my diet?" Hannah stared in disbelief, speechless. She never expected someone to go that far. She'd endured emotional abuse before, but now it had turned physical. "Why did you do that to me?" she finally asked, voice trembling. Tears fell from her eyes, and she couldn't stop them. She had tolerated everything until now, but this was too much. What's your problem? I can feel it. You've always had it in for me," the woman snapped. "You're probably jealous because I have a boyfriend and you don't. Even if I gain weight, someone still loves me. No wonder no one likes you. You're bitter." And with that, the woman walked off. Hannah stood there, soaking wet, the pain on her skin pulsing. She clenched her fists, struggling to hold herself together. "Don't you ever bully Hannah. If I find out anyone's picking on her, you'll have to deal with me." Ryan's voice echoed in her mind, words he had shouted when they were just children. A bitter smile formed on her lips. He wasn't here now. He hadn't been for a long time. But remembering those words somehow helped. It gave her a sliver of strength. She wiped her tears, looked at her reflection, and whispered to herself, "You can do this, Hannah. You've been through worse. This is nothing. You'll get through it." Meanwhile, Mr. Ethan Alarcon stood in his office, staring out the window. The image of the birthmark on the back of Hannah's neck haunted him. Could it really be? She had grown up in an orphanage. She had that exact same birthmark. He pressed his fingers to his temple. He didn't know how to make sense of what he was feeling anymore. His eyes drifted to the photo frame on his desk. It was a picture of Raquel, his late wife. Every picture of his daughter had been tucked away. Whenever he tried to display them, his anxiety would flare up. His psychiatrist had advised him to keep them hidden for now. They only triggered panic and sleepless nights. He had relied on authorities to investigate his daughter's disappearance, but no leads had turned up. So many years had passed. He could still remember that day. He and Raquel had taken their 5-month-old daughter on a trip to her family's farm in the countryside. They wanted her relatives to see the baby. Raquel cradled the baby on her lap, gently rubbing her neck. "Her birthmark looks like a little lucky charm," she whispered, smiling. "I still don't believe in pregnancy cravings," he teased her, "but I do remember you dragging me to the beach every day when you were pregnant." She stuck out her lip in mock defiance. "Those starfish were so cute. I had to see them," she said with a laugh. They both laughed and turned to watch the sun setting behind the hills. "This place is so peaceful," she said. "Clean air, fresh vegetables, fish, meat, and Dad's dairy cows give us unlimited milk. It takes all the stress away." He nodded. "Maybe we should move out here." They had a small business in the city, but he was willing to let it go, just to make her happy. They didn't have much, but they had love. Raquel's family was well off, while he had come from a modest background. It never mattered to her. They were happy with what they had, but he never expected what would happen next. They were driving back from the farm when he fell asleep at the wheel. The truck swerved and crashed. When he regained consciousness, he was bleeding. Raquel lay beside him, unconscious and covered in blood. But the baby, she wasn't in her mother's arms anymore. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. He blacked out. He woke up in a hospital bed. Raquel's father was standing over him. "Your wife is gone. She didn't make it," the man said coldly. He stared, stunned, unable to process the words. "No, we were just together. She had the baby with her. You've been unconscious for 2 days. What are you even talking about?" The older man barked. "You're the reason my daughter is dead. My granddaughter is missing because of you. If only she had never met you." His world collapsed. All their plans, their dreams, gone. He spiraled into depression, tried to end his life multiple times, but always failed. Eventually, he realized Raquel wouldn't have wanted that. She wouldn't want him to give up. So he got back on his feet. He became a successful businessman. But even with all the wealth and power he'd gained, part of him remained stuck in the past, trapped in the memory of what he lost. Even now, he still hoped to find his daughter. And now, Hannah had entered his life. She looked like Raquel. At first, he thought he was imagining things, but the more time he spent with her, the more he felt drawn to her. He wiped away a tear and took a final swig from his glass of whiskey. He needed it to sleep tonight, just like all the nights before. "Sir, dinner is ready," his butler said gently as he stepped into the office. "There's food downstairs." "You can eat without me," Mr. Alarcon replied. "I'm not hungry." "Sir, should I call your psychiatrist? You haven't seen him in years." "Yes, call him. I think it's time I went back." "Look at that one," shouted one of the children, pointing up at the night sky. They were sitting inside a Ferris wheel, gazing out the window, counting the stars. Hannah sat with them, her eyes soft and joyful. It was her day off, finally. She had taken the 5 kids out to the fair. They had been on their feet all week, selling flowers outside the church. They deserved a break. "I saw a toy gun game earlier. Want to try it?" she asked. All 5 children nodded excitedly. They spent the rest of the afternoon running around the fairgrounds, playing games, and winning prizes. When they won a teddy bear, the kids screamed with joy. "I want another one!" one shouted. "Go ahead!" Hannah laughed, encouraging them. They continued to play until everyone had their own teddy bear. That's when Tina, the eldest sibling, called them to order. "Okay, that's enough. You're asking too much from Miss Hannah. Have some shame," she said sternly. Hannah just smiled. "It's okay, Tina. What flavors do you want?" she asked the kids as they stared longingly at the ice cream stand. They began shouting flavors in unison. She paid for all of it and handed them their cones. They sat together, eating happily. For once, the kids looked like kids. Even Tina, who at age 12 had taken on the role of caregiver, managed to smile like a child again. After the fair, they went to a fast food restaurant for dinner. Hannah ordered while the kids waited eagerly at their table. "This food is amazing! I wish every day could be like this," Annie blurted. People from the nearby tables turned and chuckled. The kids blushed but laughed along. After dinner, they stopped by a clothing store. The children had saved up some money and wanted to buy new clothes. They carefully browsed through racks of shirts, shorts, and shoes. "New shirts, new flip-flops, new umbrellas," they cheered. "You're not picking anything, Tina?" Hannah asked when she noticed the girl standing off to the side. "They should go first. My clothes are still okay." Hannah sighed. "Pick something. I'm paying." "I already paid for your siblings. Just add yours to the pile." Tina hesitated. "Go on," Hannah insisted, giving her a gentle nudge toward the racks. Tina finally picked out a new shirt, sandals, and something for the baby as well. The smiles on their faces were priceless. "Thank you for everything, Miss Hannah," Tina said later as they made their way home. "Really? Thank you. Yeah, thanks," the other kids chimed in. "I'm just happy you're all happy," Hannah replied. "It's not every day we get to do this." They reached their small home, and the children filed in sleepily, ready for bed. It was almost 8 p.m. Tina lingered behind. "I've been thinking. I think we're ready to go to the shelter." Hannah froze. She turned to Tina, surprised. "What made you change your mind?" she asked gently. "I realized we won't have a future if we stay out here. None of us will get an education if I keep trying to do it all on my own. If there's a way for us all to study, then I should take it." Hannah smiled warmly. Tina had clearly given it a lot of thought. Maybe the shelter wasn't perfect, but if it meant access to education, it was worth considering. "If we all finish a school, we'll come find you," Tina added tearfully. "We'll thank you, and we'll help you in return." When they were taken in by the shelter, Hannah wouldn't see them every day anymore. She wouldn't be able to hang out with them whenever she liked, but she knew this was for the best. "Take care of yourselves, okay?" she said, holding Tina's hand. "Eat well, get enough rest. Your siblings are counting on you. You can't afford to get sick." Tina nodded. "You too, Miss Hannah. Don't forget to take care of yourself, and I hope you find your real family someday." Hannah smiled sadly. She knew it was unlikely, but part of her still hoped. She waved goodbye as Tina stepped inside. Tomorrow everything would change again. "Where's that lazy janitor?" Hannah froze where she stood. Tabitha's voice echoed from the hallway. She had just clocked in when the floor manager began shouting. "Janitor, where's my coffee?" Hannah rushed forward with the cup. "Here it is, Mom. Just made it." Tabitha grabbed the cup and took a long sip. "What took you so long? Are you always this slow?" "Sorry, ma'am. I had to wait for the brewer. There was a line." Tabitha rolled her eyes. "Excuses, excuses. Go clean the executive floor. Asuncion is still out sick. Take your things and get up there now." Hannah hurried off, grateful for the assignment. At least on the top floor, she wouldn't be screamed at for no reason. She took the service elevator up, passed through the luxury glass doors, and began her routine cleaning of the executive wing. She didn't expect to see Mr. Alacon's car pull up outside so early. He stepped out and walked straight to his office, briefcase in hand. He looked tired. He nodded at her as he passed. Once inside, he placed his briefcase down and sat heavily in his chair. He stared at his monitor but wasn't working. He kept thinking about that birthmark. What if she really was his daughter? He couldn't stop imagining it. The resemblance to Raquel, her story, her age, it all lined up. He pulled out his phone. "Hello?" came the voice on the other end. "Yes, this is Ethan Alarcon. I need a DNA test arranged immediately." He looked over at the coffee Hannah had just left on his table. He took a sip. "I'll send the sample later. I'll handle the other half in secret. No one can know about this. Not until I'm sure." He ended the call and sat quietly. Hannah came in a few minutes later with a mop and bucket. "Good morning again, sir," she said, with a light smile. He nodded. "Good morning." She moved to the corner of the office to begin mopping. "Hannah," he said suddenly. She turned. "Have you ever wanted to know who your parents are?" he asked. She smiled wistfully. "Yes, sir, of course I have. I used to dream about it a lot as a kid. I always imagined they'd come back for me." "Do you still think they will?" he asked, watching her closely. Her expression turned somber. "I used to, but now I'm not so sure. I've accepted it, I think. Maybe they had no choice. Maybe they couldn't raise me. I try not to be angry. Whoever they were, I hope they're okay." He was quiet. She returned to her cleaning. He watched her, silently battling the emotion rising in his chest. When she finished and stepped out, he made another call. "I'm ready to send the item now. I'll need the results as soon as possible." He looked at the empty coffee cup she had left behind. It would be enough. He placed the cup into a sealed bag and handed it to his assistant, who waited outside his office. "Take this to the lab. Priority." The man nodded and left. Mr. Alarcon sat back down and closed his eyes. He had to know. He had to be sure. If this turned out to be true, everything would change. "Thank you, sir." Hannah gently set the new cup of coffee on Mr. Alarcon's desk. He looked up and nodded with a smile. "Thanks, you're always so prompt." She smiled, then glanced down at the mug he was already using. "Would you like me to throw that one away?" "Sure," he replied. She picked up the mug and left the office. He waited until the door clicked shut before picking up his phone. "The second item is ready," he said into the receiver. "Both are from her. One was the coffee cup she drank from yesterday, and this one is from today. I'll leave the rest to your lab." "Yes, sir. We'll rush the results," came the voice on the line. He ended the call and sat back in his chair, his eyes drifting to the family photo on the corner of his desk. The one with Raquel and their baby girl. The little infant in the photo had that same soft curl near her forehead, the same nose, and when he looked at Hannah, he could swear he saw those same eyes. Later that week, he received the results. He didn't even wait to sit down. He opened the envelope right there at the mail counter inside his office. As soon as he saw the words on the page, his knees gave out. He gripped the edge of the desk to steady himself. It was her, positive. She was his daughter, his baby girl, was alive, and all this time she had been right there, working in his building, cleaning his office. She had suffered, he could tell. He thought about the scar on her arm, the stories she'd told about sleeping without food, crying herself to sleep at night, being called names. He broke down. Tears streamed down his face. He tried to muffle his sobs, but his assistant, who had come in to deliver another folder, heard him and rushed to his side. "Sir, are you okay?" Mr. Alarcon turned to him with trembling hands, holding the document. "She's mine. She's my daughter." The assistant stood frozen. Mr. Alarcon slumped into his chair, eyes still locked on the paper. For so many years he had carried guilt. And now he had found her. He had to act fast. He needed to take her away from the floor where she was being mistreated. No one could lay a hand on her again. No one. "What do you mean you're pulling the janitor from my department?" Tabitha snapped, standing in front of Mr. Alarcon's assistant. "I don't need to explain that to you," the assistant replied coolly. "Mr. Alarcon has already made the decision. Starting today, she reports directly to his office." Tabitha scoffed. "What for? She's a janitor, not an executive. That's none of your concern." "Well, who's going to clean our floor now, huh? You think it's that easy to replace her? She knows the routines, the schedules." "You'll manage," the assistant said flatly, then turned to walk away. Tabitha stood frozen in place, seething. Her pride was wounded. She stormed into the break room, where the usual group of gossiping employees had gathered. "You all heard?" she snapped. "The janitor's being moved upstairs. No reason given. Just like that." "What? Why?" "Who knows?" Tabitha hissed. "Maybe she seduced someone, acting all quiet and sweet, but I knew she was fake." "She probably has dirt on someone important," another said. "She looks shady." "She's up to something," Tabitha growled. "No one gets promoted like that unless they've got something hidden." Meanwhile, Hannah stood silently outside the door, overhearing every word. She had come down to collect her final cleaning supplies. Her hands trembled slightly, not from sadness, but from exhaustion. She wasn't surprised. She had long accepted that kindness was rare, and jealousy? That came freely. She turned to leave, wanting to avoid further confrontation, but then she ran into the assistant. "Hannah," he said, "Mr. Alarcon would like to speak with you in his office." Her heart skipped a beat. She followed him upstairs, unsure of what to expect. When she entered the executive suite, Mr. Alarcon stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back. He turned when she walked in. "Please," he said gently, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. "Have a seat." She obeyed quietly. He sat down too, taking a deep breath before speaking. "I have something important to tell you." She looked at him, puzzled. "This might be a shock," he continued, "but I need you to listen closely." She nodded, still unsure. "I recently had a DNA test done." She blinked. "A DNA test?" "Yes," he said, locking eyes with her. "And the results confirmed something I didn't expect." He slid a document across the table. She hesitated before picking it up. As she scanned the words, her hands began to shake. "I've been looking for my daughter for a very long time," he said quietly. "She was lost when she was a baby. There were no clues, just hope." She looked up, eyes wide. "You," she whispered, "you think I'm your—" "No," he said softly. "I don't think. I know." Tears welled in his eyes. "You're my daughter, Hannah." I don't understand," Hannah stammered. Her hands trembled as she continued to stare at the DNA result in front of her. She read it over and over, trying to make sense of what it meant. Mr. Alarcon stood from his chair and slowly walked around the desk to her side. "I had the test done twice," he said gently. "To be sure, both times the result was the same." Hannah looked up at him, stunned. "You're my daughter," he repeated, voice cracking, "and I'm your father." Tears began falling down her cheeks. He knelt in front of her and reached out, slowly, cautiously, as if afraid she might vanish. "I know this is sudden. I can't imagine how this must feel for you." She said nothing. "I looked for you everywhere," he continued, pain etched in his voice. "After the accident, after your mother died, I did everything I could to find you, but there was nothing, not even a trace." He was crying now, unable to hold back. I blamed myself for everything. I thought I had lost you forever." She watched him, heart pounding. Her mind raced with questions. How was this possible? Could it really be true? Her vision blurred from tears. She closed her eyes and shook her head. "No," she whispered. This can't be real." "It is," he said softly. "I swear to you, it is." He gently reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, worn photo. "This is the last picture I have of you. You were 5 months old." He handed it to her. She looked at it, an old photo of a man and a woman holding a baby. The baby's eyes looked exactly like hers. Her hand flew to her mouth as a sob escaped her lips. She couldn't deny it anymore. It was real, all of it. Her heart broke open. "Dad," she whispered. It was the first time she'd ever said that word in her life. Mr. Alacon broke into sobs and pulled her into his arms. She didn't resist. She cried harder, clutching his coat like a child. For a long time they stayed like that, father and daughter, reunited after years of pain and searching. Finally, he pulled back just enough to look at her. "From now on," he said, "you'll never have to suffer again. No one will hurt you. No one will look down on you. You'll never go hungry. You'll never cry alone." He reached into a drawer and handed her a new ID badge. "This is yours now," he said. She looked down. It was a corporate badge, with her name, Hannah Alarcon. "Welcome home," he said, voice full of emotion. The following morning, the entire office buzzed with rumors. "Have you heard? The janitor is now an Alarcon." "Wait, what? You mean the janitor from the lower floors?" "Yup. Turns out she's Mr. Alacon's long-lost daughter." "No way! That's impossible. I heard it straight from HR. It's official. She even has a new ID badge." "I can't believe it. We bullied the owner's daughter." In the executive lounge, the usual confident voices were muted. Eyes darted around nervously. Everyone tried to recall the times they had mocked, scolded, or looked down on Hannah. "I told you she was suspicious," someone whispered. "She was too quiet. She was hiding something." "Don't even try it," another snapped. "You bullied her the most." Meanwhile, Tabitha sat frozen in her chair, her face drained of color. She stared at the wall, replaying every insult, every cruel command she had ever thrown at Hannah. Her hands trembled. At that moment, Mr. Alarcon walked past the break room, surrounded by bodyguards. He was on his way to introduce his daughter to the entire company. Behind him walked Hannah, now dressed in a modest but elegant blouse and slacks. Her name tag read, Hannah Alarcon, corporate intern. People stood, others bowed, no one dared speak. She passed by silently, her gaze forward. But before they reached the elevator, she paused. She turned slightly. Her eyes met Tabitha's. Tabitha flinched, expecting retaliation, a glare, even an order to leave. But Hannah simply gave a soft smile and nodded once, then turned and walked away. It was the kind of forgiveness that burned worse than punishment. Inside the elevator, Mr. Alacon placed a hand on her shoulder. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "I know," she replied quietly. "But I wanted to." He smiled proudly. As the doors closed, the whispers behind them grew louder, more frantic. But Hannah no longer heard them. She was on her way up, not just literally, but in life. This was her new chapter. "Are you nervous?" Mr. Alacon looked over at Hannah as they sat inside the boardroom, waiting for the meeting to begin. She nodded slightly. "A little." "It's all right," he said reassuringly. "Just watch and learn for now. You'll get used to it." The door opened and several department heads entered, greeting Mr. Alarcon with respect. They paused when they noticed Hannah seated beside him. "Everyone," he said, "this is Hannah Alacon, my daughter. She'll be joining us as a corporate intern. I expect full cooperation from each of you." A beat of stunned silence followed. Then came the greetings, polite, cautious, and laced with regret. "Welcome, Miss Hannah. It's an honor to meet you." She smiled politely, quietly observing. Throughout the meeting, she took notes diligently. Her father had instructed her to sit in, listen, and gradually understand the business. After the meeting, the two of them returned to his office. "You handled yourself well," he said. "I didn't do much," she replied modestly. "You paid attention. That's more than I can say for some executives," he chuckled. She smiled, then her expression grew serious. "Dad, I've been thinking." He raised an eyebrow, listening intently. "I know I'm your daughter now. I know everything's changed, but I still want to work my way up. I don't want anyone thinking I just inherited this." He looked at her, pride softening his face. "That's exactly why you deserve it." She hesitated. "Can I still clean? Just part-time? Maybe not full-time, but—" He laughed. "You want to mop the floors in between board meetings?" She blushed. I don't want to forget where I came from." He reached across the desk and gently took her hand. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone," he said. "But if that's what your heart wants, then I'll support it. Just don't overwork yourself." She nodded. Later that afternoon, she visited the shelter where Tina and her siblings had been placed. The children screamed with excitement when they saw her. "Miss Hannah!" They ran to her, hugging her from every side. She brought food, toys, and school supplies. Tina hugged her tightly, tears in her eyes. "I thought we'd never see you again." "You'll always see me," Hannah promised. "I'll visit whenever I can." She looked around the shelter. It wasn't perfect, but it was safe. The children had beds, food, and a future now, just like she did. That night, back in her new room in the Alarcon estate, she stood by the window, gazing at the stars. She held a framed photo of her mother, Raquel, given to her by her father. "Hi, Mom," she whispered. "I finally made it. I found where I belong." A tear slid down her cheek, but this time it wasn't from pain. It was peace. Weeks passed. Hannah quickly adapted to her new life, attending meetings, learning the ins and outs of the company, and taking business classes at night, all under her father's guidance. But she didn't forget where she came from. Every Friday, she still helped clean one of the company's lower floors, even if only for a short time. She insisted on it. The janitorial staff, at first stunned, slowly grew used to her presence. Some looked embarrassed, others were apologetic, but Hannah never brought up the past. She worked with a smile and greeted everyone warmly. She even helped secure new equipment for them. Better mops, protective gloves, proper uniforms. Her father didn't question it anymore. He simply smiled every time she told him what she needed. "Helping them helps me too," she once said. Meanwhile, Tina and her siblings had started school at the shelter. Hannah visited regularly, bringing snacks and helping with their homework. "You're like our guardian angel," Tina whispered once. "No," Hannah replied, hugging her tightly. "I'm just your big sister, always will be." But not everything had settled. Some executives at the company still doubted her. They smiled in meetings but whispered behind closed doors. "She's too soft. She's not CEO material. She doesn't belong in the boardroom." Mr. Alarcon heard every whisper, but he said nothing. He let them speak, and then, during one quarterly review, he asked Hannah to lead the presentation. The room went silent. She stepped forward calmly, projected the slides she had helped prepare, and spoke with clarity and confidence. By the end of the meeting, every skeptic in the room sat in stunned silence. She hadn't just memorized figures, she understood them. She offered practical solutions, identified gaps in workflow, and proposed employee welfare improvements that were both cost-efficient and morale-boosting. Her father smiled proudly. After the meeting, the head of finance approached her. "That was impressive," he admitted. "Thank you," she said, with a respectful nod. From then on, the whispers died down. The boardroom no longer saw her as just the janitor's girl or the lost daughter. She was Hannah Alarcon, heir to the company, but more importantly, a leader who had earned her place. The sun had just started to rise when Hannah stepped into the old church downtown. It was the same church where she had once sat in the back pews as a young girl, praying for a miracle she never thought would come. Now, dressed in a soft cream blouse and navy skirt, she looked nothing like the teenager who used to sweep leaves outside its doors. She walked slowly down the aisle, passing wooden benches she used to wipe clean, until she reached the altar. There she knelt and closed her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Behind her, a few familiar faces gathered. The same nuns who had raised her stood quietly, hands clasped, eyes wet with emotion. One of them stepped forward, Sister Clarice. "My dear child," she said, her voice trembling, "we always knew you were meant for something great." Hannah smiled and stood to hug her tightly. "Thank you for never giving up on me." She handed them a folder. Inside were signed documents ensuring donations for the church and funding for the orphanage. "From now on," she said, "you'll have everything you need. No child will have to leave school. No child will go hungry." Sister Clarice broke into tears. Later that afternoon, Hannah returned to the shelter to visit Tina and her siblings. They ran to her, shouting her name. She brought school supplies, food, and new uniforms. But most of all, she brought time. She stayed to help with homework, listened to stories, laughed at jokes. "You'll always visit, right?" Annie asked. "Always," Hannah promised. "And one day, I'll help you graduate too." That evening, back at the Alarcon estate, her father was waiting. "I saw the photos from your visit," he said with a proud smile. "The orphanage looks completely different." "It's just the beginning," she replied. "There's more to do." He nodded. "You remind me of your mother. She had the same heart." Hannah smiled gently. "I hope I make her proud." "You do," he said, "every single day." They sat together on the porch, watching the star slowly appear. She reached into her bag and pulled out an old letter, one she had kept for years. It was the last letter Ryan had ever written her. She held it quietly, tracing the folded edges. Her father noticed. "A friend?" She nodded. "Someone I'll never forget." He didn't press further. Some things he knew were sacred. As the breeze drifted through the trees, Hannah leaned back in her chair, letting peace settle around her. She had come full circle, from being abandoned to being found, from being unseen to being celebrated, and though her story had begun in pain, it had found its way to healing. She was home. This is Mr. Hope. I love you all.